All right, what's going on? Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, or wherever else you may be watching this video. It's Bert Ferguson, Realtor, coming to you guys with another video today. As you guys know, I come to you guys weekly with different updates, experiences, things that you should know about purchasing a home or anything related to real estate, some of my experiences, just all encompassing videos that really talk about things that are relevant to you when working with me or really doing anything in the real estate space, right? Well, today I wanted to come to you guys and I'm talking to my buyers today. So there's a lot of them, right? We've got Gen Z millennial buyers jumping into this market like crazy. We're getting ready to see a major wealth transfer from baby boomers to millennials. A lot of them are going to want to take that wealth, that money, those assets and do real estate moves with them. And there's going to be some changes coming for buyers starting in August, okay? So what I'll preface this with is that this year I invested in myself and got something called an ABR designation with the National Association of Realtors. What the ABR is the Accredited Buyer Representative Designation. And what happened was I went through some coursework, some seminars, various testing, and some other certifications that I got that now puts me as a distinguished buyer representative. I am now officially on paper an expert buyer's agent. Okay, I work with listings too, and I work with buyers. But right now, I'm talking to you guys for buyers, and I did that for you guys because there's going to be some changes coming, and I want all of my clients, whether that's people virtually who are watching this or people who I work with on a daily basis right now, to know that you guys are working with an agent right now in 2024 who's the most up to date on some of these changes coming, and we're going to talk about that today. One of those big changes are the buyer agency agreement form. This form is going to take place as a nationally accepted and nationally enforced agreement form that's going to need to be signed, talked about, understood by anyone not only looking to buy a home, but anyone even looking to just look at a home, okay? A buyer agency agreement form is going to have to be signed. But luckily for you, it's not going to be the first time that you're hearing about this or even seeing it, because I'm going to go over it right now in this video. So before I get started, you guys know my email, bertf@rushhome.com. You guys can also reach out to me on my cell, 302-204-1347. Reach out to me on any of my social media platforms, at bferg realtor, Bert Ferguson Realtor on Facebook, all that, right? And I'll leave the links or the little icons down at the bottom so you guys know where to reach me if you have more questions. So the buyer agency agreement form, what is this? So what this form has come into place because this year the National Association of Realtors settled a particular lawsuit where sellers were a little bit concerned because they were figuring, why do I have to pay the buyer's agent? Why do I have to do that? So the National Association of Realtors said, okay, we're going to settle the lawsuit, but we're going to make some changes. One of those changes now is we're going to make sure that buyers understand how realtors are compensated right from the beginning. And what this does now is puts the buyer agency agreement form right up front so that you as a consumer completely understand your costs more clearly. I understand why they did it, because they want to make sure that the home buying process's fees are put out there as soon as possible, and that buyers agents are properly doing what they need to do to get their compensation. What they're doing to educate the clients and make sure that they get into the best home. So the buyer agency agreement form. What this is going to have is some things on it that establish your relationship to your realtor. Just like when you go to a doctor's office, or just like when you go to a lawyer's office, or really any professional's office that's going to do a service for you. There's some forms that you have to sign before you guys get into your things, some disclosures and agreements. This buyer agency form, first and foremost, is going to be something you need to sign before you see a home. So let's say you call me and want to see 123 Main Street. We're going to go over the property, go over the neighborhood, go over the features of the home, see what that neighborhood is selling for with some comparison home sales, talk about some of those features in the home that may fit you, and we're going to set up an appointment. The next thing I'm going to do is go over the buyer agency agreement form. And what this is going to say is, one, where this property is. That's going to be the first things that you're going to see. Where this property is located, by its county needs to be specified in this agreement form. So you'll see that right there at the top. And before I move forward, I will say that some changes may be coming to these forms, but as of right now, while the Department of Justice and the National Association of Realtors iron out some of the details, here in Delaware, we're going to be using the Delaware Association of Realtors current form. So that's what I'm going to be going over today, the current form as of July going into August of 2024. That's the form that I'm going to be going over. Okay. So first thing that we specify is going to be the county. Where is this home located? One of the next things we're going to talk about is the duration of our buyer's agency agreement form. Some people may only want to sign it for that particular showing because you have to sign one before you even go see a home now. So you may only want to do it one time with this agent, or you may have a long-term working relationship, hopefully with an accredited buyer representative like myself. And this form will be for 60 to 90 days because that's how long the process is going to probably take in this market to get you in a home. It's about a 60 to 90 day process, especially with the lower inventory. Okay. The next thing it's going to start to talk about is compensation. Okay. How is your agent going to get compensated? It's a great question. I have a fee. Every agent has a fee. Just like you're working with a lawyer or a doctor, they also have fees. These fees now are going to be explained right up front, and every fee is different. So if you do leave this video and you're working with your agent, that fee is negotiable. It is never ever set. So remember that. And that is a benefit to you as a consumer out there looking to buy a home. So you're going to have my fee, how much that is. And then it'll also say in this form, it'll specify if the seller or listing agent doesn't offer that compensation, that you as the buyer will make that difference up. And that's where I want to go into that point right now. It is customary right at this particular point for sellers to offer some sort of compensation to the buyer's agent or buyer's brokerage so that they can bring a qualified buyer, almost like a finder's fee. That is now becoming something that buyers must understand. And if the seller decides not to do it, which they've always had the right to do, if they decide not to pay the buyer's broker, that you, the buyer, must understand what the fee is and what the difference may be if that compensation is lopsided and doesn't quite meet the full fee structure. If you as a buyer are watching this, not quite sure what that means for you as far as your purchasing power, don't worry. We can go over this in more detail. And we also will talk about your closing costs, which is where these things will happen. So it's not an upfront fee. This is stuff that's paid at closing, which never changed. Okay. So we'll talk about that more in more videos as well. But I just want to go over this form and how that conversation is going to go. So compensation is put out there pretty openly and clearly that, hey, here's what your buyer's agent's brokerage fee is. And if the seller doesn't pay that full amount or offer that full amount, here's how much you'll do to come up with the difference. This difference is paid at closing, not paid out up front, and you'll have to have this form signed before you go see a home. Okay, so your realtor should be sending you this form, should be talking to you about this form. And as changes are made with the Delaware Association of Realtors, I'm also part of the Maryland. I'm also licensed in Maryland, and I'm also licensed in Pennsylvania. Both of those states will have their own forms, and we'll also, as those get updated, I'll send those over to you all as well. And in this video, I'm actually going to leave a copy of the form as I go through these things so you guys can have a better understanding. So one of the next things that it's going to talk about is what the buyer broker's responsibility is and what their agency responsibility is, okay? And what your role is as a buyer and what your responsibilities are and what are some of your rights too, okay? As you continue to move down the form, one of the most important things is right at the very end where they talk about the CIS. Here in Delaware, that's a consumer information statement. That consumer information form goes over clearly the agency status of you as a buyer and as me as an agent, right? Am I a statutory agent? What does this mean now? Once you sign the CIS, that means that now it clearly states who I represent in this transaction. So this form must be signed before we see a home, and it also must be placed in the offer when we create an offer when we find you a home. Now, if you do have a long-term relationship with your agent and you sign a buyer agency agreement form, depending on the duration of that form or that agreement, if you make an offer with another agent, your original agent will still be due compensation to you, by you if you go with another agent. So make sure if you're working with a buyer's agent and you sign an agreement form, make sure you understand what's in it, how long it is, what the compensation is, what your rights are, where this form is going to be enforced at. Is it going to be in Newcastle County, Kent County, Sussex County, because we're here in Delaware? Those are our 3 counties. Where is it? Okay. And all of those things that are signed right there in the form. But the main things I want you guys to focus on is that these changes are coming. This is going to start August 17th as of right now, where you're going to have one of those signed. So if you come in and you're working with me and you want to go and buy a home, you want to go look at a home, and you're ready to start the buying process, the buyer agency agreement form is going to be something we'll talk about. What I may do is send this video to you so you can get familiar with it. Understand that just because it says that I have a fee does not mean you will always pay the entire thing, but it is something that I'm going to earn. Not only earn because I'm a market expert, but because I'm a accredited buyer representative. So just got that designation, okay? So the buyer agency agreement form, very important. It's coming down the pike. This was a small breakdown of it. I'll leave a little bit of it here in this video. And if you guys have any questions on it, please feel free to reach out. All right. So that's all I got for today, guys. Have a great day. See ya.